Hey everyone, welcome to another little short episode on my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk to you guys about the ZT-0560 Blackwash. I know this knife has been around for a while. I believe it is discontinued by ZT. I think it came out, or at least they announced this knife back in 2011. Now it's almost the end of 2020, so it's been roughly like 9 years. And so, I'm kind of bummed out that they're not making this model anymore because I think this is a fantastic, just an amazing, just big, kind of heavy duty tank like folder that ZT's come out with. And this is just really reminiscent of what ZT, used to be all about really back in the day. Is they just used to make just really big, just burly, robust knives, and now they still do definitely, but I feel like they've really catered to like a wide spectrum of knife collectors and users. So you have very small kind of non-locking folders to like really big, robust folders. So I feel like they've really diversified the products that they offer to customers like us who like really big folders as well as small kind of easier carry type of knives. So with that being said, really I got this about 6 months ago, and I got it used definitely. I don't it's hard to find any really brand new you know uh, stock knives, but I think there might be still some out there for sure. But before I go into like the full-on review of this knife, I do want to bring in really kind of the reason why I got the 0560 was really it started with the ZT-0308, and this is actually the first kind of big folder that I got from ZT. And so when I got the 0308, and I am my hands are small to medium sized hands, so I typically do not carry big folders. I do work in an environment where it makes it a little bit harder to carry big folders in the pocket. But so I did get this because I felt like it really, ZT was really kind of going back to their roots in terms of like, that big, robust kind of folder. And I know this is really their a foray back into that, like what they were known for. So when I got this knife, I honestly didn't know what to expect, because like I said, I don't carry big folders. But when I got it, I was just so amazed by how well it carried in the pocket. I think mainly because it is a pretty slim knife. So, and also it carries really close to the body. So it carries just really close to the body. So I feel like despite it being a really big folder, it carries actually very nicely. You could see in my small to medium sized hands that it is a pretty robust looking. I mean, if I had like 6 fingers, I could probably accommodate another finger or two on this handle. But as it stands, it is a very comfortable knife to carry. So with that being said, so once I got the 0308, it really opened me up to, man, other kind of bigger folders, and so I started to look around, in the different knife communities to see what would be kind of like my next big folder. And I don't know why I ended up with this one because I know there's a lot of great big folders out there, like Cold Steel, I know Spyderco, Benchmade, they all make really big folders, but ended up kind of leaning towards a knife that ZT had discontinued, so I started to search around and I came across this guy, and I ended up trading one of my knives for this guy. This is a really special piece, like I said, because ZT doesn't, not only they don't not make this piece anymore, but there's several things that I feel like it's really special to me. Mainly, a couple things is that it is a Hinder collab. Um, it just is really reminiscent of their of Hinder knives. But anyways, let me go into it. Like I said, I've carried this for a few months now, and so I feel like I could kind of give an idea of how this knife has been for me. Another ZT knife that I do own is the 0562 Ti. I feel like, to me, this is my favorite ZT knife, most perfect kind of all around kind of carry knife. It's perfect. I feel like this is like a medium sized heavy duty folder. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that aside. So yeah, with that being said, the first thing I really love about this knife is the ergonomics. And like I said, this is a Hinder collaboration, and Hinder's known for like his ergonomic like handle, and I feel like it really translated well into this folder. So you do have a forward, you do have not a forward, but a single finger choil, and then so it does really lock into my hand really well. And this is kind of a little bit different versus like that double finger choil. I think I love double finger choils, but a single finger choil is also fantastic. As you can see in my small to medium sized hands, this folder is a beast of a folder. It could probably fit like 2 or 3 more fingers on this handle, but because it is a long handle, it does feel very good in the hand. One thing that I do want to point out is both scales, the G10 and the titanium scales, are contoured, and so I'm gonna try to. So it might be a little bit hard to tell, but it is radiused this way and this way, and just the way they machined both the G10 and the titanium side is just it's just impeccably machined. I mean, it's so amazing the way they were able to pull this off back in 2011. I feel like now in 2020, more companies are able to pull it off, and still provide a very affordable price point. But back in the day, 2011, man, this thing was like machining wizardry, and ZT was really at the forefront of bringing this to the marketplace. Without commanding like crazy high prices. But yeah, it's just because the both handle scales are machined and contoured, it's very comfortable in the hand. It's the edges are not chamfered, but because it is, like I said, contoured, it does feel very good in the hand. The next thing I really like about this knife is it does really have like that Hinder like DNA aesthetic and profile. I would say this probably the only Hinder I've handled from them is the XM18 3-inch. So I don't know if this is more closely related to the XM18 3.5 or even the XM24. I mean, it is a big knife. I believe the blade length itself is over 3.5 inches. But yeah, I just love the look of this knife. It does scream like, what do you call it? Like tactical. It screams like kind of like hard use, just very aggressive. It looks very, I mean, in my eyes, it looks kind of intimidating. Maybe it's like all the blacked out situation going on, but I do still love how it looks. And and if you notice, like my collection is really most of my collection is made up of knives that is like aesthetically pleasing to me. You know what I'm saying? So I like to buy knives that look good. Not all cases, but most of the time. So I feel like this looks very sweet. I do love how ZT's pulled off that Blackwash. So if you look at it here on the titanium slab, they didn't only just like put color to it, but they did the kind of stonewash it too. So all the ridges are like stonewashed, and then the blade itself too. You could see like all kind of that really heavy stonewash, and it just looks so good. It just looks very just like used, very just battle worn, So I love that about this one. One thing I do want to point there, when this was available back in the day, I believe they came out with like the standard black G10 and the stonewash, and then they came out with the brown, like coyote brown, and then they came out with this Blackwash version. And also the earlier models, I believe it did not come with the lock bar insert. So right off the bat, this is a later model that comes with that steel lock bar insert. So I mean, to think back, like nowadays it's so common, but back in 2011, like you didn't see a lot of knives that came with, that that locks, that steel lock bar insert, and that, this disc stabilizer. But I mean, this knife was really pushing the envelope, back in the day. And it's just, I mean, even now, like 9 years later, still stands the test of time. Now you see, these features in a lot of folding knives. So yeah, anyways, the next thing I really love about this knife is that they actually have a captured pivot screw on this side. And the way they did it is typically, other companies, what they'll do is they'll kind of have a D-shaped, like a screw to kind of, prevent it from spinning with this side. But the way they did it, the head of this pivot screw is actually like a hexagonal. So it has to fit actually right into that shape, and it actually keeps it, from spinning while you screw and unscrew this side. So I love when companies do that, and it doesn't require you to have, two sets of tools to break that pivot loose and tighten it up. All I need to do is unscrew this side, and then everything kind of comes out. So that's a huge thumbs up for me on that end. Next thing I love about this knife is, even though this knife is 9 years old, I mean, it's broken in so nicely. It's really, the action is just buttery, buttery smooth. It's just amazing. And that lock hasn't moved from that position. It's still, I would say it's about 45%. And for as long as this knife has been in use, I don't think it's really moved from that. So I can't imagine how much more use that this knife will get out of me, and just for the lifetime. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like this is a testament to ZT's engineering prowess, really. And so yeah, the action is buttery smooth. It's just drop shutty. Maybe it's also the fact that blade is big and heavy, so it will shut on its own weight. But yeah, just the action is just like oil on glass, and it is running on that KVT ball bearing system. All right. The detent is a little bit, I would say, on the softer side. It's still, I mean, it still doesn't take much effort. It still loads up really well with that pressure, and then boom, it just comes out. But it doesn't require me to force it or anything. So the detent is on the softer side, but that's probably because of how old this knife is. Next thing, cutting performance. Even though this is a saber ground, and it goes up about 3/4 of the way up the blade, it does, cut really well. It does have a thicker blade stock. If I bring in the 0308 and just kind of compare those two, I would say those are fairly comparable. I think this might be a little bit thicker, but either way, they're very comparable. But yeah, this one cuts very well. I've cut, all sorts of things with it: cardboard, paper, mail, what have you. I believe I've taken it camping as well. But yeah, despite its thick blade stock and how it's a saber ground, it cuts very well. And another thing I really love about this knife overall is just the robust, just DNA that this knife is all about, really. It's not meant to be a gentleman's carry, a fifth pocket carry. It's just meant to be carried in whichever manner you want to carry it. And when you take it out, man, I mean, people will notice that you have a knife in your hand. It's not a discreet carry for sure. It's a very just heavy duty, robust, just kind of like, it yells knife. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is a big old knife, but anyone that's going to be getting into this knife is going to know that. If you're looking for a more like discreet kind of gentleman's carry, this knife is probably not the knife for you. So now, I mean, I think overall this is just an amazing knife. If you're able to get one, man, you should try to snag one. I've seen this on the secondary market, running for around $200 to $250, depending on the condition of the knife. But yeah, it's a fantastic knife. Now, just a couple things I feel like could take this knife to the next level is the first one is this aggressive jimping at the landing zone. So so when you kind of engage the lock, I typically clear it. I end up somewhere kind of clear of that jimping landing zone, but once in a while, if I'm just kind of doing a slow roll, it will kind of rub up against that aggressive jimping. It's not super intense, but it is, it's a little bit intense. So if they could like knock that down a little bit, that would have been perfect. I mean, honestly, I don't even think you need jimping right there, like, or at least it doesn't need to come all the way down that far, maybe up to like right there, because the way my thumb naturally kind of lands, it really just lands on top of that blade right there, and just a little bit on the handle. So I feel like you don't really need that all that other jimping that kind of goes down that way. And then the second thing is I think the detent could be a little bit harder, more crisp. Maybe it's because this knife is 9 years old that it has softened up over the years. But yeah, if the detent was a little bit harder, it would, I think, would just fire out with a lot more authority. The next thing I feel like could take this knife to the next level is if you replace this with a ceramic ball bearing pivot system. As it's running right now on KVT, I believe those are stainless steel. I've heard some issues here and there regarding that KVT system. I've heard some people get like, I don't know if it's like rusting issues or some sort of issues with it. I mean, they're not supposed to rust, right? Because they're stainless, or at least it shouldn't rust excuse me, that easily. But I think if you replace that with ceramic ball bearing system, I think it will just really take this knife up a notch. And then the last thing I feel like would really just take this knife to the next level is if it came with like a hollow grind. I don't think ZT does hollow grinds as far as I know. The 0308 is a high saber grind, as well as the 0560 Ti, and they all cut very well. But I feel like anytime you put a really thick blade stock onto a knife, it really, anything helps, the cutting performance, especially when you do like a large hollow grind, like Chris Reeve or, a lot of different companies do it nowadays, but I feel like that would just take this to the next cutting performance for sure. And the last thing I want to share is just things to consider. First thing is actually it's really interesting the way they decide to go with these different screws. So actually the body screws are T10, and then the pivot screw is a T8. So that's really interesting because usually the way they do it is they'll have a larger, torque size for the pivot, and then a smaller size for the body screw. But ZT did it they did it kind of backwards. But yeah, I mean, they're still very robust. I'm cool with T8 and T10s, but just something to consider. The next thing is that this knife, like I said, it is a heavy knife for sure. Even though they have milled out the I believe this is a steel liner. They've milled it out heavily. You might be able to see that. That's the only side that's milled out. The titanium side's not milled out. So it is a really heavy knife for sure. I think this runs north of maybe 5 ounces, maybe 6 ounces, something like that. But yeah, this is, I would say, most appropriate for jeans. Definitely, you will feel it in slacks or khakis for sure, in shorts for sure. So I feel like this is a very good working man's knife who wears jeans every day, to work, that kind of deal. The last thing I do want to mention, it is very tactical. Whether that's your cup of tea or not, I leave it up to you. I mean, I do have this, this is something I do carry like on weekends, when I'm wearing jeans, and I don't mind tactical, it is what it is. But yeah, it's just something to consider if you're not into that kind of scene, or you don't like tactical, then this knife definitely not the knife for you. But with that being said, if you are looking to get the 0560, or if you have a chance to snag one, I highly recommend it. I mean, I think for what they were doing back in 2011, it was really just pushing the envelope in terms of what a production knife company can make, and I think, and after 9 years, it really has stood the test of time. you still don't see many companies that are providing that contoured handle scales, you know, that lock bar insert with that lock bar stabilizer. I mean, you see them now nowadays, but you're still gonna pay, you know, quite a premium, you know, for these kinds of features. But yeah, I mean, GT was really just revolutionary in terms of the stuff that they could manufacture back in the day, you know, and I feel like this knife is really good testament to that, you know. So yeah, if you're able to get one of these, I would highly recommend it. If you're into big kind of folders, I highly recommend it. If you're into hinder collabs, I highly recommend it. If you're into kind of tactical, like don't mess with me kind of vibe, I highly recommend it. And if you're just into older ZT models where you just really want a kind of a piece of their history, like where they're kind of their roots, you know, I highly recommend it. This is a really just a good example of one. Anyway, with that being said, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment box below. Thank you so much for your time and for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, take care.